So see the layers of inbound messages coming in. One is, right at the earliest when email was integrated.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was the inquiries, which was basically because of Podium. The idea was that it's a widget. You can't send back a message to a widget. Uh, Reason for that also is that a widget is just a JavaScript code which could have been shared by anybody on any sort of mechanism. So we don't have a track back to that.
Right.
So if
So let me, I apologize. Let me ask one question about that. So when you say this widget, because it can be shared anywhere, so aside from the website, where else would you put it?
you could put it in a blog post of an influencer.
Oh,
You
okay. So so it can go on other websites also, not just for the subscriber.
Yes, so you could, for example, this doctor in a particular procedure is also writing on Swipe, and he has written a very nice article on, what this procedure achieves with good images, etc. And at the end of the article, he has published this widget, which basically says, if you want to know more, just fill in the details in this widget.
Oh, I see. So then, anytime a subscriber may be publicly active somewhere, and whether it's a blog or potentially even another website where they have a right to publish to, then they can simply copy and paste the embedded code and at the conclusion of whatever information or data that they're sharing, if somebody is interested in chatting with them, they can simply click on that and communicate, correct?
Uh, Not chatting part.
Not
So
chatting part, but
he,
or
yes,
if
yes,
they want to communicate, they can click on that and enter their name and mobile number, and then the communication thread begins with that person, correct?
yes. So now imagine this will happen that you read the blog post, you found it interesting, you put your phone number, you asked your preliminary question. This is an inbound message. Right now it was going into inquiries because that's how the Podium
Yes.
solution was seen. Instead, in the new solution that I'm proposing, it would go into the message center. It would indicate that this has come from the widget. And now, because it has the message is become available as a part of the chat widget, the agent can respond to the widget message. The message will not yet go back to the widget, but if he has provided his phone number and if it is a correct number, then the response will go back as an SMS on that number. And in that SMS, then we can further invite him to sort of, come on a regular communication channel, or he can continue to respond through SMS, and his SMSs will keep coming back as a part of the original thread into the chat message as person X, who is just yet a prospect.
Okay, got it, got it.
So this basically closes the loop on, because I think the issue that you were mentioning was that ultimately it's an omni-channel inward and
Right.
outward communication system that we are talking of, so that in the process of pre-sales, the funnel doesn't lose any contact.
That's right.
So uh, I am now going to modify this into this structure. Then we have social monitoring, but in social monitoring there are two separate categories. One is the kind where you have posted something and if people have reacted to it, versus the other is whether through your page or directly through Facebook Messenger, somebody sends you a request or a question or something like that.
Right.
So all of that we basically bring to. We had this also, the direct messaging center. The messaging center right now was only acting as, creation of an email or message, uh, and sending out those messages
Right.
in bulk or to a specific person. Now
Right.
I say that, instead of direct messages, instead of inquiries and emails, we would have only one integrated messaging center over here.
Okay.
I will give you the design of the messaging center today. You will be able to see in the messaging center that the emails will also be available, the direct messages, ad hoc messages, template messages, messages or emails going out in bulk to people across. So every functionality that is there, and then the widget also. I will now build out the UX for this and share you before today EOD.
Okay. Okay.
What
Sounds good.
yeah, so what makes this easy is basically in my conceptualization, and that's what I told you yesterday also, that I was very clear about it, and uh, uh, even the communication to the team also has come out very clearly, but they see email as a solution which is already existing, or podium and inquiries is a solution that is
Right. Right.
existing, and direct messages. So they did not see the whole thing as an integrated piece, whereas when you begin to funnel everything into the chat message, uh, including that, provide that little search in the chat message to look for which guy you want to talk to and start talking to that guy from the messaging center.
Right. No, I agree with you. And when we first started this project, the focus was on social sharing and feedback in the reviews, and the social monitoring part of it. Since then, what's happened in the market, there are many other companies that do similar things, in various ways, and not necessarily in one platform, but individually. So this past weekend, I was visiting my partners in Canada, and both of them are owners of big dental clinics, and I trained all of their staff. The strategy session, the result of the outcome of the strategy session was that, it's great that we've got the social monitoring and the reviews, but what really we have an opportunity in doing is differentiating by what we are now talking about, message center, right? To be able to have the best and easiest way for the subscribers' staff to interact with the patients, irrespective of the mode of communication, right? So the engagement part of it is where we intend to differentiate ourselves at this point. Just the evolution of the platform is such that that's how we will change our marketing strategy to prioritize the idea of efficient inbound, outbound management of the communications, irrespective of the mode, right?
Correct.
So if that's the case, then I agree with everything you have just outlined. And I do think we get rid of email inquiries and direct messages and call it message center. That's fine. But the other outcome of the discussion was that on the outbound, how does a clinic or any business, any generic business, Kinekt is really being built out for patients, obviously, but it can apply to any generic business, right? So, how does a company who is a subscriber communicate with their customers or patients? Well, there are the communications can either be event driven, They can either be templated and scheduled with particular reasons or triggers for those schedules. Could be holiday greetings, could be some other, calendar based issue. The it, the additionally, what could be the way of certain outbound communications would be filtered lists, and that's a very important aspect of communications, because sometimes you might have one-to-one. If Kaushal is messaging Ekram, that's fine. You know, but more often than not, when you're talking about either marketing related events like a campaign, or if you're looking at a filtered list of women between the age of 25 and 45 that are in our database, and we want to message them with some sort of facial cosmetic treatment offer, we should be able to use a template for that and filter that list to identify the recipients of that template. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not exactly sure how you intend to implement the filtering, but one thought process that I've had from the beginning was to use tags. So, for example, when a patient record is created or a client record is created, automatically tags could be obviously you can tag their name, you can tag their patient ID, because through the bridge that Alex has built for some of the software, we're pulling patient ID numbers. You can also filter by gender. You can filter by date of birth and age range. So those can be automatic. So the instant that a client is created, that client is automatically tagged with these tags, right? So this would then populate a selection of tags that can be used to filter. The other ones can be, more event driven. So if for example, all of the patients that have been served today, right? You in the calendar, you will see that their appointments have been checked out. So, perhaps there's another automated tag there. So upon checkout, you can create automated, call list. So typically, the behavior with many medical and dental clinics is that at the end of the day, all of the patients that have been served, there's a automatic, in Kinekt, I'm suggesting an automatic call list be generated. But what they do is the front desk manager, they print out a list of patients with their phone numbers and give it to the doctor. And then the doctor sits there and they call it. What I'm suggesting is that in the site app, since the doctors will have the site app downloaded and they'll have their own unique credentials to log in, because of the filtering, one of the valuable things that they can have is a call list that would allow them either the ability, since they would have the patient's information that has been served that day, either call them directly. So through the site app, if they want to call, it'll dial the phone. If they want to do the video chat or even regular text chat, they can do that. Obviously, email wouldn't factor into that because it's not a instant mode of communication. So, that would add significant value to this scenario and aggregate some of the functionality that we have currently and make it useful for the subscriber. So another scenario that's event-driven communications is, for example, let's say I have a appointment today for a teeth cleaning. Okay, so the appointment type typically for dental offices are either general or hygiene. General is dentistry, and hygiene is just the cleaning part of it, and any other hygiene related treatments. So if I have a hygiene appointment today and I cancel it, then one of the biggest tasks that a front desk person has is to now find someone to fill that appointment. Okay. So the ideal scenario is that anybody who has an appointment, upcoming appointment in the next, uh, you know, yeah, within the next month, anything out beyond a month is not viable. But from so if I call you and my appointment is tomorrow or even today in the afternoon, I call you in the morning, um, there is a rush to try and call everybody that's got appointments coming up to see if they can fill that spot. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what would be really ideal, since we have all the appointment data and who's coming in and what type, if there's a cancellation, there should be a parameter or setting where automatically all of the patients who have signed up or agreed to or opted in for a quick appointment filling option, they would automatically receive the messages, and on a first come first served basis, they can claim that spot. That would save several man hours per week for any of these subscribers. And that feature alone, one of my partners said, would justify the cost of the subscription for the product. So these are the types of things, and I don't expect you to do all of that by this weekend. But what I'm saying is, the filtering. So the reason I'm going through this process of explaining all of this is that the filtering makes this message center extremely useful to the subscriber, because they are using it to address specific actions and tasks and events, and filtering the appropriate recipients so the right people receive the right message at the right time.
So uh, I'm going to phrase what you just said into something that I just jotted over here.
Okay.
Let's call this messaging center the immediate version that we are building as a consolidation of multiple channels
Correct.
into a
Correct.
single one,
Yes. Yes.
using our existing resources,
That's correct.
for which I will give you the UI today itself, and which we will finish by weekend.
Yes.
Now, it may have, some bugs or glitches, which we will subsequently will ensure that in next week it stabilizes, but that will be completely usable. Now,
Okay.
think of the version 2 of what you just described. So, what you have essentially said is that there are users, we will not call them patients, there are users and user lists inside the product. Uh, these user lists could have associated events which have some meaning for them. For example, like you said, if you had an appointment and you have come to the clinic and subsequently the doctor's call sort of happens after you have gone through your appointment. So
Correct.
that's one kind of event. The other kind of event is cancellation of an appointment, and that leads to something. Then there is that there are templates or messages, and then there are medium that this message goes out to whom and through which channel. So
Correct.
essentially, we are saying that the messaging center should have additional functionalities of building, merging, and disposing lists with criteria, tagging, or any kind of uh, adjective that you choose over there. And those lists should be able to be manually or event driven triggers of a
Yes.
particular template driven message through the chosen medium through which the message reaches out.
Yes.
So I will give you a version 2 of the design for this uh, before end of the week, and then we will at that point I will tell you that how soon I can bring out this integrated communication center, which also becomes a fully filtered and fully event driven. We have underlying the code uh, an event model which is already there. It is
Right.
there are things which are triggered by events. There is no UI for these events for external modification. So end user is not able to use these events to generate and do actions on them. I will give you an example of what the Talksbox uh, system gives us. Uh,
Okay.
After you finish a call, they have a system that if you have provided your archive location, then immediately after the call, their archiving process starts into your archiving location, and when their archiving process is over, they have a webhook. Function of a webhook is that if you provide to the webhook a URL, then when it is done its job, it will ping your URL once.
Okay.
This is a kind of a handshaking mode. It's like me and you deciding between us that as soon as I am done with my current task, I will give you a three ping call and disconnect.
Right.
So we also have a similar underlying structure for events. If we build out these webhooks, and to these webhooks if we give URLs that if this happens then do this, if that happens then do this, then we may be
Yes.
able to structure out a good experience where they may
Right.
be able to automate their calls. So for
Right.
example, if the end of the uh, day, the doctor is just expected to sort of give out a 15 second or a 20-second shout out to his patient saying,
Right.
how is it feeling, and let me know if there is any issue. This can be a
Right.
pre-recorded message which goes out at the end of the day to everybody who has successfully completed the appointment. It just goes out into their whatever medium of messaging that we choose, and can be automated by the end users rather than programmatically.
Right. Yeah,
So
that's one example. Some clinics may decide to use the automation to do those messages. Other clinics may say that, we just want to see the list of people, and we want to manually call each one of them, or chat with them, or do a video session with each one of them manually, and they should be able to choose between the two. You know,
correct.
because some clinics may be satisfied with just saying, I'll have a standard recorded message and that'll go out to everyone. Um, and that's fine. Let's leave it for them to decide that.
Right. So I've got the idea. I will now, before end of the week, I will give you a design for this. During that time, I'll also tell you, how quickly this can be built. Uh,
Okay.
let's reconnect in the evening again for a short call, 15 minutes, where I'll walk you through the design that we finished today.
Okay. Sounds good. So, what time would that be approximately so I
You
can
tell
budget?
me, I'm available anytime. You tell me.
Okay. So I should be your time, uh, 7:30
Done.
IST.
Done.
Okay. All
I'll
right.
catch you then.
Okay, so I'll be online at that time and then we can discuss again.
Done. Done. Done.
All right.
All
Okay.
right.
Well,
Okay.
thank you very much. Okay,
Thanks.
take care.